an unexpected guest. The warm autumn evening gently enveloped the city, like an old and dear woolen blanket. A light breeze slipped through the slightly open windows, swaying the curtains and bringing with it the fresh scent of wet earth after the rain. In a small apartment on the top floor of an old building, a young writer and budding magician named Alberto was immersed in his notes. His thoughts wandered between the lines, and his hand clumsily sketched strange symbols in the margins of his notebook, where magic intertwined with art. He had just begun studying ancient magical crafts and was keeping a journal of his initial, albeit unsuccessful, attempts. Suddenly, he heard a soft creak, as if someone had gently touched the floor. Alberto looked up and noticed a shadow moving along the wall of his room. He froze. In front of him stood an unfamiliar woman, slender and agile, like a cat. Her movements were as light as her steps, and her eyes gleamed in the lamplight like a true hunter's. "Who are you?" Alberto asked calmly, setting aside his quill and looking at the unexpected guest without fear. "My name is Leia," she replied with a slight tilt of her head, smiling mischievously as if she were a child caught in a prank. "I just decided to drop by." The door was locked, but the window wasn't. Alberto nodded with a smile, impressed by her straightforwardness. He sensed that she was not an ordinary thief but a true adventurer. "Since you're here," he said, rising from his chair, "would you like some tea? I just brewed a fresh pot. It's not every day I have such unexpected guests." Leia was slightly taken aback by his reaction but then smiled wider, seeing something unusual in him. She clearly expected a different reaction, fear or at least surprise. But this young man, with his perpetually tousled hair and books scattered in every room, seemed genuinely interesting to her. "I'd love some," she replied, sheathing her dagger and sitting at the table. Alberto poured her a cup of tea and sat down opposite her. They sipped in silence while Leia surveyed the room. Her gaze was drawn to what usually didn't catch the attention of random guests, a table cluttered with magical items. Crystals of various shapes and colors lay on dark velvet, their surfaces shimmering in the lamplight. "Interesting trinkets," she said, pointing to the crystals. "Are they just decor, or is there more to them?" Alberto smiled, noticing her curiosity. "This is my collection," he said proudly. "Each of these crystals has magical properties. They enhance certain types of energy. And this tarot deck as well," he indicated an old deck of cards lying nearby. "I'm still learning, but this is an ancient art." Leia leaned in closer, examining the items with genuine interest. "You're an aspiring magician?" she asked with playful sarcasm. "You could say that," he nodded. "I'm still trying my hand at magic. It's an intriguing pursuit. I collect artifacts and study magical texts. Sometimes I perform small rituals." "Is that all you do?" She raised an eyebrow. "Just sit in your apartment and gaze at crystals?" "Not always," Alberto chuckled. "Sometimes I dream of seeing something greater. For instance, going to places where magic is alive and real, where one can touch true history." Leia silently regarded him, and a familiar smile appeared on her face, the one she wore when she had an idea. "How about a trip to the Louvre?" she suggested suddenly. "They say there are artifacts there that you wouldn't even dream of. Besides, you can only access them at night, and without permission." Alberto, stunned by the proposal, paused for a moment. The Louvre was a dream. Not just a museum but a true magical treasure trove. Forbidden sections, hidden from ordinary eyes, harbored not only art but ancient relics. He knew it was impossible to gain entry, but the adventurer before him was offering something beyond imagination. "Are you serious?" he asked, trying to discern if she was joking. "More than serious," Leia replied. "You said yourself you dream of adventure. And I, of seeing rare treasures. So, do you want to give it a try?" Alberto glanced at his collection, then back at Leia. His heart raced, and the thought of breaking the law filled him with acute excitement. "All right," he agreed finally, a light smile on his lips. "This will be interesting." Leia stood up, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Great," she said. "Let's get out of here then." They quickly gathered what they needed. Alberto donned a cloak and grabbed a few of his magical crystals, while Leia prepared for her usual work, discreet entry. "The night is long," Leia said with a smirk, opening the window through which she had entered the apartment. "We have plenty of time to uncover new secrets." They stepped out into the cool night air and silently disappeared into the shadows of the streets. Secrets of the city park. The night in the city seemed calm and quiet, occasionally interrupted by the sounds of footsteps from rare passers-by or the glow of street lamps along the streets. Alberto and Leia walked briskly, enjoying the night air and the emptiness around them. Leia, accustomed to adventurous nocturnal outings, felt completely at ease, while Alberto couldn't stop thinking that the adventure had only just begun. He still couldn't believe he had agreed to such a risky escapade, a nighttime visit to the Louvre. "We'll be in the park soon," Leia said confidently, checking her internal map. "If we turn right, we'll avoid the busy streets." "A park at night is the best place for a walk," Alberto mused. "There's no one around, just us and nature." They soon arrived at the city park gates. Its dense foliage and green flower beds created a sense of a magical oasis amidst the city bustle. The park was different from the city streets not only for its green corners but also for its lamps, which looked far more elegant and mysterious than ordinary city lights. They were ornate, decorated with carvings and magical symbols. Each lamp emitted a soft, golden light that seemed to float in the air, illuminating the park as well as daylight but maintaining an air of mystery. "Beautiful," Alberto said quietly, gazing at the lamps. "These lamps look like they're from another world. They light up the park in a way that's unlike the city." Leia just smiled, enjoying the atmosphere that prevailed here. The park indeed looked like a fairy tale corner, untouched by hustle and noise. But soon, Alberto felt a strange movement in the air, as if something was watching them. As they ventured deeper into the park's dark alleys, surrounded by dense trees and bushes, the atmosphere changed noticeably. The soft whisper of the wind, like the rustling of leaves, seemed to carry some message. "Do you feel that too?" Alberto asked, slowing his pace. Leia paused for a moment, listening. Indeed, amid the rustling leaves, she detected soft, musical sounds, as if someone were playing a melody on invisible strings. "Definitely something unusual," she said, squinting her eyes. "Let's stay alert." They proceeded cautiously, but soon they encountered slender figures, seemingly woven from leaves and branches, dryads. These magical beings guarded the park, a gift from the city, and lived in its green corners. Their bodies resembled ancient trees, and their eyes glowed with the wisdom of ages. "Good evening, travelers," one of the dryads spoke, her voice like the whisper of the wind. "What brings you here at such a late hour?" Alberto and Leia exchanged glances, clearly not expecting to meet magical beings in the city park. "We're just taking a walk," Alberto answered cautiously, feeling the magic of the surrounding nature pulsating in the air. "We didn't think we'd meet anyone here." The dryads smiled mysteriously. In our park, there's always something happening, another dryad said. And if you're ready for a challenge, we offer you a small quest. It's a trial for those who walk our paths by night. Are you ready? Leia looked at Alberto with excitement. How about warming up before our visit to the Louvre? She suggested, barely containing her smile. Alberto succumbed to her enthusiasm and nodded. Why not? He said. The dryads whispered joyfully and disappeared into the dense foliage, and the park before them changed. Tall bushes and flower beds turned into a winding labyrinth, as if nature itself had decided to test them. The lamps along the paths lit the way, but their light seemed more enigmatic, as if guiding the heroes. Your first task is to find the flower that shines the brightest, the dryad's whisper echoed from afar. Leia looked around, and Alberto, using his magical intuition, began searching for the source of magical energy. Each flower glowed with a soft light, but one of them, hidden among the others, emitted a slightly brighter glow. There Alberto pointed to a flower bed off to the side. Leia approached and carefully picked the flower that indeed shone brighter than the rest. As she held it, the bushes moved again, revealing a new path. Your second task is to find the ancient tree that houses the spirit of the forest, came the next whisper from the dryads. Leia took the lead and began examining the trees. Her eyes settled on one with smooth bark, slightly different from the others. She touched the trunk, and a small glowing spirit flew out of the tree, as if born from the very magic of the park. Seems like this is what we need, Leia said with a smile. Congratulations, the dryad's voice came again. The third and final task is to find the heart of the park, the lantern of eternal light. They moved forward, following the new path until they reached a small clearing in the center of the park, where an elegant lantern stood, adorned with delicate magical patterns. Its light was warm and soft, like nature's embrace. We did it, Alberto exhaled, looking at the glowing lantern. The dryads reappeared, greeting them with friendly smiles. You have completed our quest, one of them said. As a reward, we bestow upon you the blessing of the forest. May it protect you in your future adventures. The lantern's light gently enveloped them, filling them with the power and magic of nature. Alberto and Leia felt a surge of energy, as if nature itself had granted them its support. Thank you for the game, Leia said as the dryads disappeared into the night. They left the park with smiles, filled with new experiences and ready for the next part of their journey. Ahead of them lay the main adventure, a nighttime visit to the Louvre.